My toxic boss blacklisted me, so I used a 3D AI clone to annihilate his entire career. I watched the cursor blink at the end of the fake $350,000 offer letter, my finger hovering over the send button, knowing that the moment I clicked it, the man who had systematically ruined my career was going to nuke his own life into dust. He thought I was just another disposable asset he could crush under his designer shoes, but he was about to learn that when you back a senior developer into a corner, they don't just fight back, they build an entirely new reality to trap you in. The heat crawling up my neck started the day I sat across from Harrison in his glass-walled corner office. Harrison was a vice president at the legacy tech firm where I had poured 4 years of my life into building their flagship mobile infrastructure. He was a man who styled himself as a tech visionary, a guy who dropped buzzwords like synergy and Web3 paradigm while barely knowing how to convert a PDF. He wore custom-tailored Italian suits, drowned himself in bergamot cologne, and possessed an ego so massive it generated its own gravitational pull. "You're a dime a dozen, Maria. Just a pixel pusher," he sneered, tossing my performance review file onto his mahogany desk. "We're pivoting to AI-driven asset generation. Your role as a 3D animator and lead mobile developer is redundant. Pack up your desk. Security will escort you out." My teeth ground together so hard I heard a popping sound in my jaw. I had single-handedly carried his department through 3 disastrous launch cycles. I had slept under my desk for weeks to fix the memory leaks his chosen consultants had coded into our core architecture. And now, he was tossing me out the door to save a fraction of the budget so he could hit his quarterly bonus metrics. I didn't say a word. I packed my belongings, walked out of the building, and swore I would simply move on to something better. But the tech industry is a small, vicious ecosystem. Over the next 6 months, I applied for dozens of senior roles. My portfolio was immaculate. My technical assessments were flawless. Time after time, I breezed through the initial screenings, crushed the technical panels, and reached the final round of executive interviews. Time after time, the recruiters would call me, practically giddy, telling me to expect an offer by Friday. And then, the silence. Ghosted. Form rejection emails. Awkward, stuttering phone calls from hiring managers who suddenly couldn't meet my eye through the webcam. My bank account drained. I burned through my emergency fund, then my savings, then my 401k. The fluorescent lights of my cramped studio apartment constantly hummed, mocking me as I stared at past due utility bills. My vision would literally go blurry with rage as I sat in the dark, wondering what unseen force was suffocating my livelihood. The dam broke on a rainy Tuesday in November. My phone buzzed. It was Dave, an external recruiter I had worked with for a role at a top-tier gaming studio. I had aced the final interview. I was just waiting for the paperwork. "I shouldn't be telling you this," Dave whispered, his voice crackling over the static of a bad connection. "If my agency finds out I broke confidentiality, I'm fired. But you need to know." "Know what, Dave?" I asked, my fingers digging into the worn fabric of my couch. "It's Harrison, your old VP," Dave whispered. "He's doing backdoor references. Every time you get to the finish line, the hiring managers reach out to him through informal channels. He's burying you, Maria. He's telling them you're unhinged, that you stole company code, that you're a walking lawsuit waiting to happen. He's completely blacklisted you." The phone slipped from my ear. The silence in my apartment was deafening. Harrison wasn't just firing me, he was starving me out. He was ensuring I would never work in my field again, purely out of spite, purely to ensure nobody ever questioned his narrative that I was the problem. I didn't cry. The despair evaporated, replaced by a cold, surgical clarity. Harrison was a predator who thrived on corporate illusion. He worshipped prestige, titles, and European venture capital money. He wanted to be a global player. He thought he was untouchable because he controlled the narrative. I was a master-level 3D character animator and a senior software architect. My entire professional existence was dedicated to creating illusions so perfect that the human brain accepted them as reality. I opened my laptop, cracked my knuckles, and went to work. I started with $50. That was all it took to purchase the domain name for Ethelgard Global Ventures. I spent the next 48 hours straight, fueled by nothing but stale coffee and pure, unadulterated venom, building a masterpiece. Using a combination of React and some incredibly heavy CSS styling, I crafted a corporate website that looked like a billion-dollar Swiss investment firm. It had parallax scrolling, dynamic financial charts, stock footage of gleaming Zurich skyscrapers, and a board of directors characters populated by AI-generated faces that didn't exist in the real world. Using my Python skills, I automated a series of back-end protocols. I routed my entire digital footprint through a virtual private network based in Geneva. I set up an automated email server with DMARC and DKIM authentication so my messages would bypass even the strictest enterprise spam filters. Then, I cast my line. I drafted an email from Heinrich, the fictional senior executive headhunter at Ethelgard Global Ventures. I sent it directly to Harrison's private email. Dear Harrison, Ethelgard Global Ventures is currently seeking a global operations director to oversee our new $500 million tech incubation portfolio. Your unique vision at your current firm has caught the attention of our board. The total compensation package is $350,000 annually, plus heavy equity. We operate exclusively with top-tier talent. Discretion is paramount. It took exactly 14 minutes for him to reply. Heinrich, I am very intrigued. I have been looking for an organization that matches my strategic pedigree. Let us schedule a phone call. I laughed out loud, a harsh, jagged sound that echoed off my walls. He swallowed the bait whole. Over the next week, I played a rigorous game of cat and mouse. I sent him complex non-disclosure agreements. I demanded comprehensive breakdowns of his current company's operational flaws, which he happily provided, violating a dozen of his own NDAs in the process. I was gathering ammunition, page by page. But then, Harrison got arrogant. I do not conduct business purely through anonymous emails and voice calls. If Ethelgard is serious about my candidacy, I demand a face-to-face video consultation with the managing partner, he hissed in an audio message he sent via the secure portal I had built. I need to see who I am getting into bed with. He thought he had called my bluff. He thought a fake company would scramble and vanish. He had no idea what kind of monster he had awoken. I booted up my high-end rendering rig and opened Unreal Engine 5.6. This was the bleeding edge of real-time 3D graphics, the exact software he had mocked me for using. I accessed the MetaHuman Creator, a framework designed to build hyper-realistic digital humans. For 12 agonizing, glorious hours, I sculpted the managing partner of Ethelgard Global Ventures. I named him Bjorn. Bjorn was a masterpiece of digital deception. I gave him a distinguished, silver-streaked beard, deep-set icy blue eyes, and skin textures so complex you could see the faint broken capillaries across his cheekbones. I adjusted the subsurface scattering so the virtual studio lighting would interact perfectly with his digital sweat glands. He looked like an aristocratic Swedish billionaire who spent his weekends hunting elk and firing underperforming executives. But a static image wasn't enough. Harrison wanted a live video call. I mounted an iPhone equipped with a true-depth camera directly in front of my face. I mapped the ARKit facial tracking data directly onto Bjorn's rig inside Unreal Engine. When I blinked, Bjorn blinked. When I sneered, Bjorn sneered. The real-time facial motion capture was flawless. Every micro-expression, every twitch of my jaw, was translated instantly into this digital titan. Next came the audio. I couldn't speak to Harrison in my own voice. I licensed a state-of-the-art AI voice cloning tool. I fed it hours of audio from a prominent Scandinavian actor, training the neural network until it produced a perfect, gravelly, commanding Swedish accent. I patched my microphone through the software, converting my voice in real time with less than a 50-millisecond latency. Finally, I routed the output of the Unreal Engine viewport directly into OBS Studio, creating a virtual webcam that I could use on Zoom. On a Thursday morning, the Zoom waiting room dinged. Harrison had arrived for his interview. My heart hammered against my ribs like a caged bird. I took a deep breath, adjusted my posture, and clicked admit. The screen split. On one side was Harrison, sitting in his plush home office, wearing a dark suit and a desperate, eager smile. On the other side was Bjorn, puppeteered entirely by me, sitting in a dark, minimalist apartment wearing sweatpants. Mr. Harrison, I spoke into my microphone. The AI software instantly translated my words, and out of my speakers came Bjorn's deep, resonant, intimidating voice. The metahuman's lips synced perfectly with the audio. Harrison practically melted into his chair. His eyes widened as he took in the sheer executive presence of the man on his screen. Bjorn, it is an absolute honor. I've been researching Ethelgard, and I must say, your portfolio is revolutionary. I spent the next 45 minutes systematically dismantling his ego. I used Bjorn to ask incredibly aggressive, impossible technical questions. I made him sweat. I made him stammer. Every time he tried to use a buzzword, I had Bjorn cut him off. We do not care about your synergy, Harrison, I commanded, furrowing my actual brow so Bjorn would glare at him through the screen. We care about results. Are you a leader, or are you a middle management parasite? I'm a leader, Harrison practically begged, leaning closer to his webcam, a bead of sweat tracing down down his temple. My current CEO is an idiot. The board is incompetent. I am the only reason that company is still afloat. I am ready to leave them in the dust. Excellent, Bjorn rumbled. We will be in touch. I killed the feed. I slumped back in my chair, my hands shaking violently from the adrenaline rush. It was working. The illusion was impenetrable. Over the next 2 weeks, I dragged Harrison through 3 more grueling rounds of interviews. I made him perform ridiculous logic puzzles on camera. I demanded he write a 10-page strategic manifesto over a weekend. I treated him like absolute garbage, and because he thought I was a European billionaire, he thanked me for the privilege. He was a dog begging for scraps at my digital table. That's when the real bombshell dropped. Exactly halfway through my meticulously planned revenge timeline, I intercepted an email through my old company's network, a network I still had passive, read-only access to through an overlooked legacy server. Harrison wasn't just planning to leave. He was actively trying to use my fake Ethelgard offer as leverage to extort a massive retention bonus from the current CEO. He was playing both sides. If he got the raise, he would stay, and all my work would amount to nothing but a mild inconvenience for him. The heat flared in my neck again. He was trying to outmaneuver me. He was trying to turn my trap into a golden parachute. I couldn't just give him a fake job. I had to make him burn his current kingdom to the ground. I immediately drafted the official offer letter. It was a masterpiece of legal-sounding fiction, adorned with watermarks, holographic digital signatures, and a binding arbitration clause. I offered him the Global Operations Director title, a massive equity stake, and the bait that would seal his doom, a $50,000 signing bonus. But I added a highly specific, non-negotiable stipulation. This offer, including the signing bonus, is strictly contingent upon your immediate resignation from your current employer. Ethelgard Global Ventures requires absolute commitment. You must sever all ties and provide proof of immediate departure within 24 hours of signing, or this offer is permanently rescinded. I attached the PDF and sent it into the ether. The next 24 hours felt like holding my breath underwater. If he took the safe route, he would show the offer to his CEO and try to negotiate. If his greed outweighed his caution, he would detonate his life. At 9 a.m. the following morning, my phone erupted with notifications. I had retained my connections with several former colleagues on LinkedIn and private Slack channels. My screen was flooded with screenshots, frantic text messages, and links. Harrison hadn't just resigned. He had gone nuclear. Fueled by the intoxicating promise of European wealth and a massive signing bonus, he sent a company-wide email to all 800 employees. I read the screenshot, my hand covering my mouth as a manic laugh bubbled up from my chest. To the leadership team, he had written, "I am officially tendering my immediate resignation. For years I have carried the dead weight of this organization on my back. The CEO lacks vision, the board is cowardly, and I am exhausted from pretending otherwise. I have accepted a senior executive role at a premier global venture firm that actually recognizes true talent. Best of luck trying to survive without me." But he didn't stop there. Harrison's ego demanded a public victory lap. He logged onto LinkedIn and made a massive text post. He uploaded a cropped screenshot of the Ethelgard contract, making sure the $350,000 salary and his new title were clearly visible. "It takes courage to walk away from toxicity," his post read. "Today, I say goodbye to small-minded thinkers and step into the global arena as Global Operations Director for Ethelgard Global Ventures. Never let mediocre people hold you back. Know your worth." The post had hundreds of likes. Industry leaders were commenting, congratulating him. His bridges weren't just burned, they were vaporized. He had publicly humiliated his former CEO, alienated his entire network, and tied his entire professional reputation to a company that existed solely on a server sitting under my television stand. The climax of my orchestration was scheduled for Friday the 13th, Harrison's supposed day one. I didn't just want him to realize he was scammed. I wanted him to know exactly who pulled the trigger. Over the previous weekend, I had used the Flutter framework to build a custom cross-platform application. I packaged it as the Ethelgard employee onboarding portal and sent him the executable file, instructing him to log in at precisely 9 a.m. on Friday to initiate his wire transfer for the signing bonus. Friday morning arrived. The sky outside my window was gray and heavy with rain. I sat at my desk, watching the back-end analytics of the Flutter app in real time. 8:58 a.m. User Harrison_global connects to the server. 8:59 a.m. User navigates to the financial onboarding tab. 9 a.m. User clicks initialize welcome sequence. In his home office, Harrison was staring at his monitor, likely rubbing his hands together, waiting for a welcoming address from his Swedish benefactor. Instead, the screen went black. Then, a video began to play. It was a recording of his third interview. It was footage of Harrison leaning into his webcam, sweat on his brow, groveling. "I'm a leader," the recorded Harrison begged on the screen. "My current CEO is an idiot. I am ready to leave them in the dust." Beside the pathetic footage of himself, the face of Bjorn appeared on the screen. Bjorn looked at the camera, his icy blue eyes piercing through the digital void. "You are not a leader, Harrison." Bjorn's deep voice resonated, but something was wrong. The audio was glitching, the pitch shifting violently. Slowly, agonizingly, the metahuman began to morph. The silver beard dissolved, the rigid jawline softened, the pale skin shifted in tone. The real-time rendering engine I had built into the app's backend was executing a sequence I had coded to perfection. The majestic Swedish billionaire was de-aging, melting, restructuring. Within 10 seconds, Bjorn was gone. Staring back at Harrison from the high-resolution 3D render was my face. Maria, the pixel pusher. The digital version of me smiled, a cold, predatory smirk. The Swedish accent was completely stripped away, replaced by my own raw, unfiltered voice audio I had pre-recorded. "You're a dime a dozen, Harrison," my digital avatar whispered through his expensive speakers. The video feed snapped to black. Before he could even process the reality-shattering horror of what he had just witnessed, my back-end script executed its final command. A push notification bypassed his phone's lock screen, glowing brightly in his dark office. "Offer rescinded. We conducted a thorough background check and found your professional character to be unstable, toxic, and entirely devoid of talent. Perhaps you should have been more careful with your own backdoor references. Have a wonderful career. Best regards, Maria." The fallout was a masterpiece of self-inflicted destruction. Harrison, completely unhinged by the revelation, immediately called his former company, begging for his job back. The CEO, who had been publicly humiliated in front of 800 employees just days prior, threatened him with a harassment lawsuit and trespassed him from the building. Desperate, terrified, and facing financial ruin, Harrison tried to hire a ruthless employment lawyer to sue Ethelgard Global Ventures for breach of contract. It took the lawyer exactly one afternoon to discover that Ethelgard did not legally exist anywhere on the planet. The Swiss IP address was a ghost. The domain was registered to a shell proxy. But the absolute crowning jewel of my vengeance was hidden in the fine print of the NDA he had hastily signed during the second week of our dance. I had embedded a self-disclosure clause. By signing the document, Harrison had legally admitted, in writing, to engaging in malicious professional sabotage, unauthorized backdoor referencing, and retaliatory practices against former subordinates. When he tried to file a grievance with the State Labor Board, claiming he was tricked, the board demanded his documentation. He had to hand over the very contract where he confessed to destroying my career. The Labor Board dismissed his case instantly. Word travels fast in the tech industry. His LinkedIn post, once a beacon of his immense ego, became a viral meme among recruiters. The man who told the world to know your worth had traded his high-paying executive job for a phantom position created by the very woman he tried to crush. He became a cautionary tale, a ghost story told in Slack channels and whispered during networking events. He is now permanently unemployed, unable to even secure an interview as a junior manager. I, on the other hand, landed a lead technical director role a month later. As I sit here in my new corner office, looking out over the skyline, I sometimes think about Harrison sitting in his house, staring at the walls, realizing that his entire reality was dismantled by a woman with a $50 domain and a graphics engine. Am I the monster here, or did he get exactly what he deserved?
If you have made it this far and want to see more videos like this, then kindly subscribe and turn on notifications so you may never miss another story like this.